Dave Fletcher was having the kind of Monday that made Garfield look like a motivational speaker. His coffee maker had broken, his tie had a mysterious stain that looked suspiciously like last night's pizza, and his boss had just emailed him about TPS reports. Again. If I have to explain cover sheets one more time, Dave muttered to himself as he trudged across the parking lot. I'm going to. The rest of his sentence was cut off by a blinding flash of light. 1 second he was walking toward his sensible mid-sized sedan, and the next he was standing in what looked like the bridge of a spaceship, surrounded by tall, bug-eyed creatures with skin in various shades of purple and blue. Dave said eloquently, clutching his briefcase to his chest. The aliens froze. Then, as one, they dropped to their knees, their heads bowed low. The prophecy is fulfilled, said the tallest one, a lanky purple fellow with what appeared to be military insignia clustered on his chest. The silencer has arrived. Dave looked over his shoulder, expecting to see someone impressive standing behind him. There was no one there, just more bewildered aliens peering at him through a doorway. There must be some mistake, Dave said, adjusting his glasses. I'm just a regular guy from accounting. I think you meant to abduct someone else. The aliens exchanged glances, their large eyes blinking in what Dave hoped was confusion rather than murderous intent. He speaks, whispered one, sounding horrified and delighted at the same time. This is unusual, said another. Dave cleared his throat. Look, I really need to get back to work. My boss is already on my case about those reports and… Silence. Roared the tall purple one. Dave shut up immediately. Excellent, the alien said, his voice lowering to what Dave supposed was meant to be reverential. You see? He sits in silence, just as the legends foretold. I wasn't sitting, I was standing, Dave pointed out. And I only stopped talking because you yelled at me. The aliens gasped collectively. The humor, one whispered. Just as the stories said. The deadpan delivery. The subtle mockery. What stories? Dave asked, feeling increasingly like he'd stumbled into someone else's fevered dream. Who exactly do you think I am? The tall purple alien stepped forward and performed an elaborate bow. I am Commander Vrax of the Galactic Federation. And you, mighty silencer, are our last hope against the Krotak Empire. Dave stared at him. My name's Dave Fletcher. I work in accounting. I'm supposed to be in a budget meeting right now. Ah yes, said Commander Vrax, nodding sagely. The legendary Earth cover identity. So convincing. So mundane. Truly, you are a master of deception. Dave sighed. It was going to be a long day, even longer than usual, and he'd thought the TPS reports were bad. Let me get this straight, Dave said, pacing the length of what Commander Vrax had called the strategic planning chamber but looked suspiciously like a conference room. You think I'm some legendary warrior called the Silencer who's going to save your entire civilization from these Krotaks? Not think. No, Commander Vrax corrected, his 7-fingered hands folded neatly on the table. The prophecy was quite specific. A being of remarkable unremarkability shall arrive, bearing the sacred container of wisdom. He pointed at Dave's briefcase. His silence shall devastate his enemies, and his words shall confound his allies. Dave glanced at his briefcase, which contained nothing more exciting than half a turkey sandwich and some spreadsheets. This is a briefcase. It holds paperwork. Sacred texts, nodded an alien Dave had been introduced to as Chief Science Officer Plex, containing the wisdom of your people. It's a quarterly budget report, Dave insisted, with a mustard stain on page 6. A coded message, no doubt, Plex said, nodding enthusiastically. His large head wobbled with the movement. Dave collapsed into a chair, causing another round of gasps from the assembled aliens. He sits. Just as the prophecy said, exclaimed a small green alien whose name Dave had already forgotten. I sit all the time, Dave said. Everyone sits. It's not a prophecy, it's basic anatomy. Humans get tired of standing. Such wisdom, murmured Commander Vrax. Dave was about to protest further when the door to the conference room slid open with a dramatic whoosh. A tall, powerfully built alien with deep blue skin and what appeared to be naturally occurring armor plate strode in. Unlike the others, who seemed impressed or terrified of Dave, this newcomer looked distinctly unimpressed. This is Lieutenant Mira, Commander Vrax said. She will be your combat trainer. Combat trainer? Dave squeaked. Lieutenant Mira circled him slowly, her yellow eyes narrowed. This is the Silencer, the warrior who defeated the Ejork fleet with nothing but his gaze, the diplomat who negotiated the Treaty of 7 Moons without speaking a word, the strategist who— I'm an accountant, Dave interrupted. The most threatening thing I've done this week is send a strongly worded email about improper expense reporting. A master of psychological warfare, Mira said. But Dave detected a note of doubt in her voice. Listen to me, Dave said, standing up and addressing the room. I am not this Silencer person. There has been a massive mistake. I need to go home, feed my cat, and forget this ever happened. You have a feline companion? Commander Vrax asked, sounding excited. The sacred beast of Earth warriors. This confirms everything. No, it's just a cat, Dave said. An ordinary cat who poops in a box and throws up on my carpet. A creature that produces biological weapons, Plex noted, typing something into a tablet. Fascinating. The Krotok Emperor has demanded your presence, Commander Vrax said, ignoring Dave's protests. He believes you to be a fraud, but if you truly are the Silencer, your mere presence will strike fear into his heart. I am a fraud, Dave shouted, then immediately regretted it when the room went silent. Classic Silencer misdirection, Commander Vrax finally said, hiding in plain sight. If I'm not the Silencer, what happens to me? Dave asked, a sinking feeling in his stomach. Oh, you'll be executed for impersonating a figure of galactic importance, Commander Vrax said cheerfully. Standard protocol. Dave stared at him for a long moment. You know what? I'm starting to remember my Silencer training. When do we meet this Emperor? That's the spirit. Commander Vrax clapped his hands together. Lieutenant Mira will begin your refresher training immediately. The fate of the galaxy rests on your shoulders, Silencer. Great, Dave muttered. No pressure or anything. Your stance is all wrong, Lieutenant Mira barked, circling Dave like a predator. The Silencer is known for his impeccable posture. Straighten your back. Dave attempted to stand taller, which was difficult given that he'd spent the last 15 years hunched over spreadsheets. Better, Mira grudgingly admitted. Now, show me your intimidating stare. Dave tried his best to look menacing, which, according to his last performance review, was about as threatening as a mildly irritated hamster. Mira sighed. That won't scare a Krotok infant. Again. 3 hours into what Mira called basic Silencer refresher training and what Dave called cruel and unusual punishment, he was ready to confess to being a fraud. To execution be damned. His muscles ached in places he didn't know he had muscles, and his face hurt from attempting various intimidating expressions. Perhaps we should try something else, suggested a new voice. Dave turned to see a stocky alien with orange skin and what appeared to be mechanical components integrated into his body. He had a tool belt slung around his waist and grease stains on his uniform. Torque, Mira said, her tone suggesting she wasn't pleased with the interruption. The Silencer is in training. Yes, I can see that, Torque said, his mechanical eye whirring as he looked Dave up and down. And with all due respect, Lieutenant, he looks more like he's about to file someone's taxes than destroy them in combat." "Thank you," Dave exclaimed. "Finally, someone who makes sense." Torque grinned, revealing a row of metallic teeth. "The legends say the Silencer was a master of many disciplines. Perhaps combat isn't his strongest suit right now." "Then what is?" Mira demanded. "Diplomacy," Torque said. "The Treaty of 7 Moons, remember? Not a word spoken, and 7 warring species laid down their arms." Dave perked up. Talking was definitely preferable to whatever martial arts Mira had been trying to teach him. "I'm pretty good at conflict resolution," he offered. "Last year I mediated a dispute between sales and marketing over the coffee fund." Mira and Torque stared at him. "It was very tense," Dave added. "There were strongly worded emails." "Perhaps we should test his diplomatic skills," Torque suggested. "Commander Vrax has arranged a preliminary meeting with the Krotak delegate before the main summit." Mira looked doubtful but nodded. "Fine. But if this fails, we're going back to combat training." "Deal," Dave said quickly. Later, as Torque led him through the ship's corridors, Dave finally had a chance to ask the questions that had been burning in his mind. "So, who exactly is this Silencer person I'm supposed to be? And why does everyone think it's me?" Torque glanced around to ensure they were alone. "The Silencer is a legendary figure in our quadrant of the galaxy. A human who, according to stories, could defeat enemies without raising a hand, simply by staring them down in complete silence." "That's ridiculous," Dave said. "Is it?" Torque raised an eyebrow, or what passed for one on his orange face. "Humans are rare out here. Most species have only heard stories, and those stories say that humans have a terrifying ability to remain completely still and silent while planning the most devastating strategies." "We call that being bored in meetings," Dave muttered. Torque chuckled. "The prophecy said the Silencer would return in our time of greatest need, carrying the sacred container of wisdom." "My briefcase." "Exactly. And here you are, a human carrying a case, arriving just as the Krotak Empire threatens to destroy the Galactic Federation." Torque shrugged. "Coincidence?" "Yes, absolutely yes, that is exactly what this is," Dave insisted. "Well, coincidence or not, you're our only hope," Torque said, stopping in front of a large door. "The Krotak delegate is waiting inside. Remember, the Silencer is known for saying little but implying much." "So, just sit there and look mysterious?" Dave asked. "Precisely," Torque said, slapping him on the back. "You're a natural." The Krotak delegate turned out to be a massive reptilian creature with blood-red scales and too many teeth to count. Dave tried not to stare, but it was difficult not to notice the way those teeth gleamed under the conference room lights. "This is Ambassador Creel of the Krotak Empire," Commander Vrax announced, his voice carefully neutral. "Ambassador, this is the Silencer, champion of the Galactic Federation." "So," the ambassador hissed, forked tongue flicking out to taste the air, "this is the legendary Silencer. He looks soft." Dave opened his mouth to protest, caught Torque's warning glance, and closed it again. "Right. Silent intimidation." He stared at Ambassador Creel, trying to channel his inner mysterious warrior. In reality, he was thinking about whether he'd left his oven on back home. The silence stretched. Ambassador Creel shifted uncomfortably. "Is he going to say anything?" the ambassador finally asked. "The Silencer speaks when it serves his purpose," Commander Vrax said smoothly. "Not to satisfy curiosity." Dave nodded sagely, as if this had been his plan all along. "We have demands," Ambassador Creel said, sliding a tablet across the table. "The Emperor requires the immediate surrender of the Pleiades sector and control of the wormhole at Deneb." Dave picked up the tablet, pretending to read it while actually trying to decipher the alien symbols. After a moment he set it down, looked Ambassador Creel directly in his reptilian eyes and said nothing. The ambassador's scales seemed to pale slightly. "Is that a refusal?" he asked. Dave shrugged one shoulder, a gesture he hoped conveyed mysterious wisdom rather than complete ignorance. "The human gestures," Ambassador Creel said to his aide, who was frantically taking notes. "What does it mean?" "Mia. It indicates that your demands are—" Commander Vrax looked at Dave, who remained impassive beneath consideration. Ambassador Creel's tail thumped against the floor. "The Emperor will not be pleased." Dave, emboldened by the apparent success of his silence, leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. He was channeling his boss now, the way she looked when someone tried to submit an expense report for team building that was clearly just a night at the bar. "He's doing it," the ambassador whispered. The silence. The legendary human psychological warfare. Dave raised one eyebrow, a move he'd practiced in the mirror for job interviews. "We will reconsider our position," Ambassador Creel said, standing suddenly. "The Emperor will want to meet with the silencer directly. This is not over, human." After the Krotok delegation left, the room erupted in celebration. "Magnificent," Commander Vrax exclaimed. "Did you see how he cowered before your silent judgment?" "I was just sitting here," Dave protested. "With such purpose," Plex added. "Such deliberate stillness." "I literally did nothing," Dave said. "Exactly," Torque said, winking his mechanical eye. "That's what the silencer does best." "The Emperor has requested a direct meeting," Lieutenant Mira reported, entering the room with a stern expression. "Tomorrow, on neutral ground. The silencer versus Emperor Gragnok." "Perfect," Commander Vrax said. "The prophecy unfolds exactly as predicted." Dave wasn't feeling quite so optimistic. What happens if this Emperor isn't as easily intimidated as his ambassador? Then the Galactic Federation falls, billions die, and you're executed as an imposter, Commander Vrax said cheerfully. "But no pressure." "Right," Dave said weakly. "No pressure at all." The neutral ground turned out to be an asteroid that had been hollowed out and converted into a luxurious meeting facility. Dave stood in the antechamber, fidgeting with his tie. Commander Vrax had insisted he wear his Earth clothes, claiming they were part of his mystique. "Remember," Torque said, adjusting Dave's collar, "you don't need to say anything. Just be the silencer." "That's the problem," Dave croaked, his voice coming out as a harsh whisper. "I don't think I can say anything." "What?" Torque's mechanical eye whirred with concern. "I think I'm getting a cold," Dave explained, touching his throat. "Or space flu. Or alien plague. I can barely talk." "This is perfect," Commander Vrax exclaimed, overhearing them. "The silencer, true to his name, will be literally silent." "That's not what I..." Dave began, but his voice cracked and faded to nothing but a painful rasp. "Save your strength," Commander Vrax advised him. "The Emperor approaches." The doors swung open, revealing a procession of Krotok warriors in ceremonial armor. They parted to reveal Emperor Grak, a massive version of Ambassador Creel with deeper red scales and a crest of black spines running down his back. He wore what appeared to be a cape made from the skin of some unfortunate creature. "So," Emperor Gragnok rumbled, his voice like stones grinding together, "this is the legendary silencer." Dave tried to speak, found he couldn't, and settled for a nod. "Nothing to say?" the Emperor taunted. "No threats? No demands? No pleas for mercy?" Dave opened his mouth, made a rasping sound, and closed it again. He shrugged apologetically. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Is this some kind of trick? Some human psychological tactic?" Dave shook his head, pointed to his throat, and mimed drinking water. "He thirsts for victory," Commander Vrax translated quickly. No, Dave mouthed, rolling his eyes. Ah. The human shows contempt for our negotiations. Emperor Gragnock roared. He believes our terms beneath his notice. Dave frantically shook his head and reached for the water pitcher on the table. He rejects your interpretation. Commander Vrax announced. Truly, the silencer's mind operates on a level beyond our comprehension. Dave finally managed to pour himself a glass of water and drank it gratefully. The cool liquid soothed his throat, but his voice was still gone. Emperor Gragnock watched this display with growing uncertainty. The legends say you defeated the Ejork fleet with nothing but your gaze. Is this true? Dave, having no idea what a Ejork was, gave a non-committal tilt of his head. They say you negotiated the Treaty of 7 Moons without speaking a word. Dave spread his hands in a "well, here we are" gesture. And they say, Emperor Gragnock continued, lowering his voice, that humans can sit in perfect stillness for hours, plotting the downfall of their enemies. Dave, who had been fidgeting with his water glass, immediately froze. He stared at Emperor Gragnock, trying to look as if he was contemplating galactic domination rather than wondering if his cat had destroyed his couch by now. The silence stretched. Dave did not move. His nose itched terribly, but he didn't scratch it. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, but he didn't wipe it away. Emperor Gragnock's tail twitched nervously. What is he thinking? The Emperor finally demanded of Commander Vrax. What strategies are forming in that human mind? Commander Vrax, clearly improvising, said, the silencer calculates 1,000 possible futures. In how many does the Krotak Empire survive, I wonder? Dave, still frozen, tried to convey with his eyes that this was an excellent bluff. Emperor Gragnock's crest of spines flattened against his neck. Perhaps we have been hasty in our demands. Dave nodded slowly, trying to look wise rather than relieved. A new treaty, Emperor Gragnock proposed. Fair terms. An alliance even. Dave gave what he hoped was a magnanimous nod. And that was how, in complete silence, Dave Fletcher negotiated the end of a galactic war. Later, at the treaty signing ceremony, his voice finally returned. I just want to say, he began, his voice still raspy but audible, that I'm really glad we could work this out peacefully. The entire room gasped. The silencer speaks, someone shouted. Such wisdom, cried another. Emperor Gragnock dropped his treaty pen. The prophecy, it said, when the silencer finally speaks, the universe shall tremble. As if on cue, the asteroid shook slightly, just routine gravitational adjustment. Torque would later explain, and several Krotak warriors fell to their knees. I meant to say, Dave continued hastily, may this treaty bring prosperity to all our peoples and silence to our weapons. Silence. The crowd echoed reverently. Commander Vrax beamed at him. Well done, silencer. Well done indeed. So let me get this straight, Dave said, packing his briefcase in his temporary quarters aboard the Galactic Federation flagship. The entire galaxy thinks humans are these terrifying strategic masterminds because we sit quietly sometimes. Not just sit quietly, Torque explained, helping Dave fold his now famous tie. You remain completely still, showing no emotion, while clearly thinking deeply. Most species find it deeply unsettling. That's just being bored in meetings, Dave said for what felt like the 100th time. Or zoning out watching TV. Or waiting for the microwave to finish. Whatever you call it, it's terrifying, Torque said. The stillness, the silence, the way you stare without blinking. We blink, Dave protested. Not as much as other species, Torque countered. The stories of the silencer grew from actual human visitors, you know. Diplomats and traders who came through this sector centuries ago. And they just sat in meetings? They just sat in meetings, Torque confirmed. and somehow ended up with the most favorable trading terms anyone had ever seen. Dave laughed, shaking his head. And now I'm the legendary silencer, architect of the Great Galactic Peace Accord. How does it feel? Torque asked, his mechanical eye whirring curiously. Dave considered this. Better than TPS reports, I'll give you that. Commander Vrax entered without knocking, his purple skin practically glowing with excitement. The transport is ready, Silencer. We can return you to Earth whenever you wish. Just Dave, please, Dave said, closing his briefcase. The whole Silencer thing is retired now. Of course, Commander Vrax said, winking dramatically. Your secret is safe with us. It's not a Dave began, then sighed. Never mind. Thank you for the ride home. The Federation will always be in your debt, Commander Vrax said solemnly. Should you ever need our assistance, simply look to the stars and be silent. Right, Dave said. Got it. The journey back to Earth was surprisingly quick, involving technology Dave didn't pretend to understand. Before he knew it, he was standing in the same parking lot where he'd been abducted, briefcase in hand, as if nothing had happened. Remember, Commander Vrax said from the ship's ramp, not a word of this to anyone. Who would believe me? Dave asked. Excellent point, Commander Vrax agreed. Farewell, Silencer. Dave. The ship disappeared in a flash of light, leaving Dave alone in the parking lot. He checked his watch. Somehow, despite days aboard the alien ship, only hours had passed on Earth. He was still going to be late for that budget meeting. With a sigh, Dave headed toward the office building, wondering how he was going to explain his absence without mentioning aliens or galactic peace treaties. As he reached the door, his boss stepped out. Fletcher. Where have you been? The meeting started an hour ago. Dave opened his mouth to explain, then remembered Commander Vrax's warning. Instead, he simply looked at his boss and said nothing. To his surprise, she took a step back, her expression changing from anger to uncertainty. Well, she said, I'm sure you had a good reason. We'll catch you up later. Dave stared at her, astonished. Actually, she continued, backing away slightly, why don't you take the rest of the day off? You look like you've had a difficult morning. Dave continued to say nothing, too shocked to form words. And about those TPS reports, his boss added, now practically at her car, don't worry about them. I'll reassign them to Johnson. You're clearly too valuable for that kind of work. As she hurried away, Dave stood in silence, briefcase in hand, a slow smile spreading across his face. Maybe being the silencer had its advantages after all.